Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to M1 Racing and our live coverage of the G-Force Racing League. My name is Mark, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. But I am not here on my own. As always, we have Pete with us in the background, keeping an eye on the chat and also on the action on the screen that we're not able to take you to at any given point in time. So please do say hi to Pete in the chat. I know he would love to keep in touch with you. And also I'm joined by Rio in the commentary box here to help us guide you through all the action. And we are here this week for round 9 of the G-Force Racing League from Suzuka in Japan. So Rio, any early predictions? Who do you think's going to win this race today?
Well, that's actually quite a tough call because Japan is a very, very tough circuit, especially on this game. And for traction control and everything, it's very, very. It spins you out quite a lot. It chews your tires up. But I think if there's anyone good at tracks like these in the G-Force Racing League, I'm gonna have to go with SHS.
Well, they're definitely the one to beat right now. They're out in front in the Drivers' Championship and are likely to be strong and consistent round here. So, before we get out on track and get an eye on what is going on, if you're with us today for the first time, or perhaps even better, rejoining us from previous weeks, and you want to keep us company here in the commentary box, please do so. You'll need to follow us on Twitch with a verified email, and then you should be able to chat with us. And if you are, let us know who you think is going to win here in Japan. So let's get out there as we go and find some drivers to follow. And you'll see there, actually popped up on your screen, Mr. Hannes has retired. Mr. Hannes picked up a qualifying ban from Spain last week, so they're not permitted to go out on track today. But so we won't see them setting a lap time with us today, but they will be in the race. So Mr. Han is starting from the back for us in Japan, but we can look for a big charge from Mr. Hannes as they go from last, hopefully from in their seat, to first. We'll see how they get on. We'll certainly watch Mr. Hannes' progress, who is definitely a good driver with the G-Force Racing League, and we look forward to seeing how they get on today. All right, we are following Obo around here as they look to be on one of their first laps. I'm just going to flip to tyres. That always gives us a clue where people are on their laps. Does indeed look as though Obo is making their way round. We're going to be looking for some others coming through in a moment. And Obo looks as though they're going to be the first to set a lap time for AlphaTauri and themselves as they cross over the line indeed. So 128.794 early lap in for Obo. And we've got Wands coming over the line behind them in second. Currently on the grid 129, but we see more and more times coming in. And there's a fastest lap so far from SS7. Rio already 127.970 on medium tyres.
Yeah, that's quick.
That bodes well for the rest of the race for SS7 and Mercedes, if that's how they've started. So good for them. Hypno also doing the same thing here, out on some medium tyres as well. We can bring up the sector times on the screen for us as well. So if you'd like to follow along with that, you can get the sector times in the top right corner of your screen there, folks. So we'll see. Once the drivers have got at least one lap in, you'll be able to tell if they're improving sector on sector. And another Mercedes teammate there, again Rio, this time on soft tyres, and Joe Bean very comparable to SS7, only half a second quicker than SS7 was on their medium tyres. Imagine SS7's feeling quite confident at this point.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because only being half a second down and on relatively, well, mediums are known for not being fast and not being too, long lasting. So yeah, he's probably gonna go for pole, and I can see that now because he's doing quite a good job on the mediums.
Pete's just whispered in my ear that MVR is setting purple sectors all over the place, and indeed, they look as though they're continuing to do that. If we just drop down to MVR, they're picking up a slipstream from the Haas, who's doing their best to stay out their way there. I think that's pretty good driving. That was well off the racing line, but that was through 130R. And then SHS has come through with the fastest lap so far, 127.184. As MVR is going to come over the line for an even faster lap, a 126.456. MVR showing what they're made of. Right, I was keeping an eye on Emeleki because they are looking to come round to start their flying lap, and we will follow them round on their hot lap, and we'll take you around this incredible driver's circuit here in Suzuka. Honda's test track originally, built back in the 1960s, but now one of the most iconic circuits on the F1 calendar. So I'm really delighted that SS7 chose this to go on the G-Force Racing League calendar. All right, so we are going to ride on board with Emeleki as they take us round a flying lap of the Suzuka circuit from Japan. Now, it does look as though Emeleki's going quite slow here, so I don't think this is actually a flyer. So maybe they've decided to back out of that for just a moment. Indeed, so I think they are going slowly, as a few drivers are at the moment. So we'll be looking for another driver who can perhaps take us around on a quick one. We've got Wands down here on an outlap. Looks as though they are getting their tyres warmed up. Already set a time of 129.234. And we have a new driver. You can see currently third place in qualifying, M1 Righty. Has done a 127.203. So good time from M1. And obviously we're going to be fans of M1, given that's also the name of our Twitch feed here. So we haven't sponsored M1 Righty at all. But if they want to talk about a deal, we'll be open to it, particularly if they're a good driver. So it's good to have them with us for the first time on M1 Racing and the G-Force Racing League. All right, so I'm following around with Wands here, who had a very good battle with David T last week in Spain. We're going to see what time they can set. We also see SS7 out on some new soft tyres, as indeed their teammate Joe Bean. So Mercedes looking to close in on those times up there. We're going to give Wands the honour this time of taking us round, I think, as they come through the final chicane here. And they're going to go over the start-finish line as they take us round Suzuka. So we're going down the start-finish straight. DRS, the only DRS zone on the track, down into turns 1 and 2. Looking to break into turn 2, get back on the power as quickly as can. Now, really technical S-curves. Got to balance the throttle as we go through these corners. You can't overcommit through here, and we want to get the exit of turn 6 just right so we can accelerate up the hill. Not getting out too wide onto the grass, but staying within track limits. Then we head down to Degner 1. Looks as though Wands avoiding those curbs there, looking to stay on the tarmac through Degner 2. And now we're going to go down to the hairpin at turn 11, taking quite a wide line, and that's a perfectly legitimate line round that hairpin there. Try and get back on the power as quickly as we can, because it's all acceleration now down towards the final turns before we hit the big main back straight. So we're going to drift out as much over these curves, and Wands keeping it nice and tight actually this on this particular lap, not really using too much of the curb as we then head down towards the iconic 130R, which is going to be, for most of our drivers, absolutely flat out as they go through this corner, heading down to turns 16 and 17, the final chicane. We go over the curbs, and again, Wands staying clear of those curbs, obviously not trusting the car over them, hugging nice and tight to the inside as they go over the start-finish line for a 128.582, improving on their last time, moving them up into 11th spot. So good lap from them. We're going to jump on with SS7 now as they're coming around to finish. They are half a second up on their previous lap so far. Really tricky over those curbs through 16 and 17. Back on the power as we go over the finish line. And SS7 improves just in front of their teammate, 127.407. So we have MVR out in front from SHS, who's just moving out on their out lap. And then we've got a new driver, M1 Righty, in third with a 127.203, followed by the two Mercedes of SS7 and Joe Bean. Although Joe Bean just setting their next fastest lap of 126.966. So they were into the 126s now, Rio. So again, MVR setting such a strong time. Is there anyone looking like they might be able to catch MVR?
At this point in time, definitely Joe Bean and maybe SHS. If SHS does set a lap that's slightly slower, quicker than Joe Bean, then it's going to be Joe, and SHS is going to be the ones to challenge him for both the win and pole.
Yeah, and I think there's this battle for second down to about sixth. It's incredibly close. There's about half a second between those four or five drivers. So I think we're going to have some pretty close racing when we get underway. There's just over 6 minutes left of qualifying. Don't worry, folks, if you see the yellow flags come up, we don't anticipate safety cars during qualifying. It usually indicates that there's a driver going slow on track, probably to get out of the way of others, as we do ask the drivers to do that. Don't want anyone to have their hot laps compromised in any way. So I'm just getting some messages here. So we've got SHS, I think, out on a lap here indeed. So they're 3/10 up on their last lap. So they're just coming around over the final chicane. As you see how much curb SHS took on the that first part of turn 16, it's right close to the edge of the track there. Indeed, improving 126.843, but not enough yet to take pole position away from MVR. And as MVR often does, they'll sit there in the pit and wait for others to try to topple them. So we're going to go down a bit further down the field here, and we'll see if we can find others out on a hot lap. Looks as though Ace Pilot is on one right now. So we're coming through with Ace Pilot as they head down towards 130R. Maybe not on a hot lap. They 17 seconds down. So yeah, cruising out of that. So let us go up to. Does look as though, Domo Pierce is just coming around. It looks to be, just warming their tyres up, going carefully. They've got a Williams, that's LLX1 going past there. Also on an out lap on some medium tyres. So LLX perhaps looking to get another sighter in, see if they can improve on that 128. And also these drivers will want to look after their soft tyres as much as they can, because they might need them in the race. So they'll be going carefully here. We've got Domo just about to start, I think. So we might ride on board with Domo as they sort themselves out here. Indeed, here we go with Domo Pierce. This turn one is so important to get right, but if you don't want to overdo it, that should commit in here, full power, but then get on the brakes and drift in. And then we go back up the hill, and now we're going to go through these S-curves. Really looking ahead to the next corner on every corner. We don't want to be too close to the apex when we're trying to turn in. We want to be able to get in nice and tight later on. Keep as much speed. And there's Domo. Sadly loses it on the exit of turn 7. And you'll see drivers do that a lot, particularly those with low downforce. The car gets away from you as you go up the hill on the power. You'll see some drivers may lift, others will try and stay and hold it out. When you've got soft, grippy tyres, you've got a better chance of success. But Domo, I don't think, will be the last driver to do that today. So 3 minutes left to go. We'll probably be seeing a few drivers making a final decision to come out on some brand new tyres. They'll need about 2 minutes to get out of the garage all the way around and then cross that start-finish line before the checker flag comes out. So their lap times will count as long as they get over the start-finish line before the end of qualifying, before it gets to 0 on the clock in the top right left corner of your screen, folks. So that's what we have to look out for. A few drivers, it's going to get busy out on track on the last few minutes, and those out setting times now are probably in the best spot to avoid all of that traffic. We've got David T coming around here is up by nearly 4 tenths in Sector 2. So David T certainly looking to improve here as they come over the line. Indeed, improves by 3.5 tenths to 127. Moving, I'm looking to where David is. Oh yeah, in 8th spot, 127.634. So well done to David. Hopefully looking to continue their good performances from previous weeks. So that was Domo that we just looked at, and now we've got Wands also out there, just coming through Degner 2, underneath the bridge. This is I think the only figure of 8 circuit we have on the F1 calendar now, and what a fantastic circuit it is. I think most drivers would enjoy driving around here in the real world. I certainly would. So we've got Wands out underway here, going through Sector 2 right now. And they are 6 tenths up. They were in Sector 1, I think. So Wands doing well. Coming through to complete Sector 2. There's a Williams there, hopefully getting out of the way. So Wands losing some time there. Still slightly ahead, 1.5 tenths ahead as they come round to complete, which will probably be their last qualifying lap here. So this is likely to be where Wands is going to be starting on the grid as they come over. Finish the line and moves up to 11th, so 128.438. Well done to Wands there. We've got Joe Bean out there, so they look like one of the likely challenges to NVR as they're coming through Sector 1. Let's ride on board as we see how Joe navigates the S-curves. Do they keep it flat up the hill? Looks as though they do. As we head down to Degner 1. Joe taking more of that curb on the way on the inside, and again a little bit of it on the inside of Degner 2, heading down to the hairpin at turn 11. Slightly closer to the apex than we saw Wands earlier, so slightly tighter line, back on the power as we head up the hill with Joe Bean. Accelerator flat to the floor, and then trying to judge into turn 13, going out over those curbs. But not many of our drivers yet really risking it that wide over these curbs, so many of them trying to avoid bottoming out the car or losing traction on those curbs and sticking well within track limits. Joe Bean is up, looking at the timing screens, by half a second at the moment, so this could be a strong time for Joe Bean and Mercedes. They get through the final corners of the chicane and they've given up. So unfortunate for us, we didn't see that finish. J-Repo purple in Sector 1, so continuing to lead the way. SHS is trying to improve. Not currently making too much of a dent on MVR. We've got M1 Righty out there as well, so got an eye on them. A new driver for Alpine. Indeed, SHS has backed out of that, so they're not going to get any further on that. We've got MVR coming through. Purple in Sector 2 as well. Fractions in it, but continuing to improve for MVR. They come down to the chicane. How much curb they take on the inside of turn 16 there. Big chunk of curb on the way through onto the start-finish straight also. 126.312. Don't see that being beat in Rio. I think MVR's got pole.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a quick lap. And M1 Righty, he is just gonna 3 tenths faster, I think that is. 3 tenths slower than J-Repo, so he could be one for the winner's spot in his first race. But no, that was a good lap from J-Repo, and he's fast.
Yeah, so it's a good spot, Rio. M1 Righty really showing their class early on, certainly their speed early on, as to come into this league and set such a strong time. MVR may well have a challenge on their hands for this round 10 of the G-Force Racing League from Japan. So we'll go through full qualification results in just a moment. They'll be coming up on your screen here. So we've got MVR in pole. Alongside them, M1 Righty for Alpine. their first race with the G-Force Racing League. We welcome them. SHS in third, our championship leader. Joe Bean in fourth. N1A in fifth. Actually, I remember, I'm not sure it was N1A in the driver's chat earlier, was not particularly confident here, but N1A, good result there for them. Another good qualifying for Alfa Romeo from M1A. SS7 down there in sixth, not really able to make much of a further move up. Emeleki also down there in seventh, so at second and third in the driver's standings. David T in eighth, Obo in ninth, and L. Alex in 10th. Hypno in 11th, Tomo Pierce in 12th, Wands in 13th, and Andre Lude in 14th. Ace Pilot was down there in 15th. So we will look for these drivers to line up on the grid. Remember, Mr. Hannes will be starting last on the grid due to their qualifying ban, but we'll be looking for them to move up the running order from here. Rio, so what are you going to be starting on? What do you think our drivers are going to start on? Soft or hards, or even will they go short stint, long stint, or maybe go out on the mediums and see how long they can last those out? Where would you go?
If it was me, I'd probably go with softs and then see how long they last, and then go on to the mediums.
I remember from racing on here in the game not too long ago, I think it was on one of the ranked races, softs did seem to hang up well. So 5 lights on. All right, folks, let's go racing. Round 10 of the G-Force Racing League is underway with MVR leading us away, but M1 Righty had a much better start and gets down the inside of MVR into turn 1 and 2. Joe Bean in third there, has actually got ahead of SHS. So Joe Bean's had a lightning start also. And putting MVR under some early pressure. So great start by M1 Righty, announcing themselves to the G-Force Racing League and the M1 Racing crew here. Really great start from there. I'm hearing Wands may have spun in the background. So Wands is dropping back through the field there, so hopefully no damage for Wands, and they'll be back underway very quickly. But we're going to focus on the front here because MVR, after some strong performances recently, has maybe got a challenger to their crown for victor of the G-Force Racing League, as they're leading us through as we come around the back of the circuit here. MVR in second, following M1 Righty, Joe Bean in third, SHS in fourth, M1A holding station there in fifth, Emeleki in sixth, SS7 in seventh, and David T in eighth. So not too many changes further on down the grid, although Mr. Hannes, Rio is already up to 10th.
Yeah, Mr. Hannes, I'm very, I was watching him, and he got a very, very good start from the back.
And Joe Bean looking to try and get down the inside of MVR. It was a brave move, but MVR closed the door and they avoided contact there, but it did have to go a little bit sideways. But Joe Bean managed to get through that. We can see the Alpha of M1A trying to look down the inside of SHS. So we better look at tyres here, Rio, to see which ones they have gone with, because that's going to tell us an awful lot. And indeed, N1A against SHS, that's why there's such a close battle. With N1A on the soft tyres will have way more grip this early on in the race on those softs compared to SHS and their hard tyres. But they're going to have to make it stick, Ray. M1A's got to get past SHS pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's going to be coming more sooner than you think, because soft versus hards. But SHS is fairly faster than N1A in terms of, just regular driving. So it could be a long battle.
And M1 has obviously taken advantage of those medium tyres and that early grip off the start-finish line. So those lights went out. They really did get down the inside of MVR very quickly, and that has helped them pull a bit of a gap out already to MVR. They'll be looking to get out of DRS range as quickly as they can, that range being 1 second. They don't want to give any drivers a chance of closing them down under DRS. M1 Righty setting the early fastest lap of the race so far, 129.940. So it's starting to, MVR has now dropped out of DRS range, which will probably be activated this lap. So MVR has dropped into the range of Joe Bean for Mercedes. Now, MV are looking to keep those hard tyres in the window for as long as they can and take those as far into the race as they possibly can. But that's giving Joe Bean the opportunity, as we see a yellow flag in Sector 1. I am just going to bring up the track map for us, folks, just in case we see who that is. And there does look to be a bit of a battle going on between Ace Pilot and Wands there briefly. Ace Pilot on some soft tyres, but Wands looking to make their way back up through the field. We're going to go down to Mr. Hannes, who is trying to get past Obo, it would seem. Yeah, so Mr. Hannes have had a cracking start to this race, really making up for those earlier lost places. Going to keep our eye on the gaps in front, but this one is looking interesting for us. Obo trying to hold off Mr. Hannes and also trying to close down SS7. But we've got SS7 and David T. Now, it does look as though SS7 has lost some laps or some positions early on, but they also are on those hard tyres. So they might accept they just don't fight right now. They'll save that till later on. We're on lap 4 of 27 of the G-Force Racing League from here in Suzuka in Japan. We're round 10, so we're nearing the end of the championship. Only 12 rounds, 2 to go after today. So points all important for both our drivers and their teams. So they'll be going carefully here. Everyone wants to finish today because you do get points for finishing wherever you finish. So I don't think we'll see too many rash moves if they're playing the long game. But SS7 dropping back a little bit more now from David T. And perhaps conserving those tyres for as long as they can. I'm going to go down to Hypno and Alex. So Hypno on the hard tyres with Alex on the medium tyres will potentially have a better grip for them. And I don't know, Rio, when do you think we'll see the medium tyre runners come in? Do you think they'll try and take it halfway?
I think they will. I think they will, but I think they might be pitting a lot sooner than the halftime for the race, because of how quickly this track eats up the tires. But it definitely will be towards halftime for the medium runners, and the hard runners, they will have to make a stop, so it could be halftime as well that they make a stop with the medium runners.
And we might be starting to see these medium tyres going off already. We're already seeing SS7 closing up here on David T, going down the inside of David T into turn 1. Nice and cleanly done. David T not fighting that, and SS7 moves up. And indeed, we've seen the same. We're going back up now to MVR, who has closed up in on M1 righty. So although those medium tyres had some really good early grip, now that those hard tyres have warmed up, the drivers on those hard tyres are starting to make ground on the drivers in front of them. N1A is staying within a second of SHS. We're going to stick with MVR for a moment here as they try to retake the lead of this race, which they lost early on. We've got another yellow flag in Sector 1. Looks like a Williams there has returned to the circuit, so that's good. So M1 righty now feeling the pressure from MVR behind them. MVR will be looking to make a statement here and say, hey, you've come to try and take my crown. You're not taking it just yet. So we're going to have a good battle between these two. MVR will have the slipstream as we head down to 130R. Cars will be flat out here as they go round the corner, run out towards the curbs. MVR taking a wider line. No move into the chicane there of 16 and 17. MVR's back into the car complaining as they get back on the power. We'll now have DRS down the main straight. Will we see MVR make a move? They have moved to the inside. They've got the extra straight line speed over the Alpine and they make a move through. Good move, Rio.
Yeah, well, that was good for MVR. He was building, and then finally just attacked him. And it looks like he's already half a second. 5 tenths up on M1, so M1 could be saving those medium tires and finding a time to attack him and go for it, or NVR could just be giving it his all because he is on the hards. He could be going all the way into the very last second.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if MVR has either found a nuclear reactor in their car, or they've found some massive extra grip, because they've already pulled out over a second over M1 just on this first lap since passing already. So we've got a yellow flag in sector 1. Again, it does look like there's another Williams potentially spun down there. Was Ace Pilot Pete is telling me again. We're dropping down to Mr. Hannes and Obo. So Mr. Hannes has got past Obo. So that has moved them up into 9th position. And they'll now be coming up on their teammate David T for Haas. So Mr. Hannes having a good drive here and looking to close down David T. Wonder whether or not there's any team orders at play. M1A already into the pit. So those soft tyres have had enough for M1A. It'll be interesting to see if this is going to be a 2-stopper for M1A as we watch there. M1A onto mediums. Rio, that's got to be 2 stops, do you think?
Yep, I think that is going to be. That's definitely going to be 2 stops because he came out. That's a very early pit stop. He probably wants to get more higher than whoever he was battling. I forgot who he was battling, but he probably wants to get more higher than them. And yeah, it could be 2 or even 3 if he wants to get the fastest lap. Go for that attempt.
Yeah, it's worth a shot. I mean, with the drivers they've got in front of them, it does look as though we lost Emelecki from a connection perspective. You can see they're ghosted here, and that's when they are. The AI is taking them around at the moment. I do hope Emelecki can reconnect because they were going well there, in at 5th place at the time that it looks as though they left the session. So I assume there's been some kind of connection issue for Emelecki. So hopefully we can get them back in as soon as possible. That has promoted SS7 now up into 5th spot. As we see, Joe Bean has now been passed by SHS. So those hard tyres are definitely the ones to be on right now. They've certainly got more grip and pace than those mediums had, as we see Joe Bean really struggling for grip out of the chicane there. Emelecki is back in, which is good news for us. Sad they've lost a couple of places, but Emelecki's good, so I'm sure they'll be making that time up. Joe Bean back past SHS into turn 1. So this battle between 3rd and 4th not yet over. M1 righty back 1.5 seconds back almost from MVR. So MVR starting to stamp their authority on the lead of this race. Joe Bean has just moved back up into 3rd, as we saw, getting past SHS. And then Joe's teammate SS7 now moving up into 5th. They haven't got past David T and Emelecki. David T having a good race here in 6th place and not letting SS7 get away from them either. So David T, I seem to remember in the chat saying they haven't practiced here at all week. So they've certainly remembered this track well, and they're certainly hanging on to the coattails of SS7 on those medium tyres, no less. So good performance by the Haas team in 6th and 7th here. Certainly early contenders potentially for team of the day, if not potentially driver of the day. So looking a bit further down, we've got Obo in 8th. We've got Hypno there in 9th. Emelecki has sadly dropped right back here alongside their teammates. So they've got a bit of rear protection from Domo Pierce behind them. But hopefully now with Emelecki back underway, we might see a pass if we stick with Emelecki on Hypno as we go around 130R in towards the chicane. Emelecki looking potentially go around the outside, thinks better of it. They'll have DRS here as we go over the start-finish line, and potentially we'll be able to get... Oh, we saw Domo Pierce, all kinds of wild coming out that chicane, but back up to Emelecki, now down the inside of Hypno, moves back up into 9th place. Good move by Emelecki, and hopefully they'll be able to make up some of the ground they lost after those earlier connection issues. El Alex has got past Domo Pierce, moving up El Alex up into 11th place. Domo Pierce now back into 12th. We see N1A down there in 13th. Remember, they have pitted already, moving from softs onto mediums. So they might be going soft, medium, soft. We'll see how that pans out. So, summary of the race so far. If you're just joining us, we're on lap 9 of 27. MVR retakes the lead after M1 came past them on lap 1, held the lead for a couple of laps, but MVR on those hard tyres as they came back up to temperature has moved up into the lead of the race. And we've now got SHS and Joe Bean battling it out for third and fourth. These places changing all the time at the front of the race. As Pete rightly says in my ear, battles for first, third and fifth right now as M1 righties coming up on the back of the MVR. Once again, Rio, this is seesawing one way or another. Perhaps drivers conserving their tyres, recharging batteries and then going again. But I can't call it from here, can you?
I don't think I can call it either, because all the soft runners are gone. There might just be that they're conserving, and the medium tire runners, at least, they're going to be conserving, and then either going to pit or just go full blast, see how far they can get.
It's going to be fascinating as we come up on we're about 2/3 or 1/3 of the way through this race. Just over, but about halfway, I think we'll see some of the earlier pit stops for the medium runners, those who might be thinking of going on to some different tyres. But I've got to say, those hard tyres look potentially the tyre to be on, and if they hold their grip and pace like these are for the remainder of the race, or certainly well into the race, they could be the ones to switch on to early. And the undercut here is incredibly powerful. There's such a long lap. It's 5.8 kilometres round this track, one of the longest on the F1 calendar. You can make up an awful lot of time on a brand new set of tyres that could really help you leapfrog your competition in front of you. But certainly M1 Righty is right on the back of MVR now, just as they come round to start lap 11 here in Japan. M1 Righty will have DRS on MVR in front of them, not really able to close up too much, certainly not close enough for a pass at this stage as they come round turn 1 and 2. We're right on board here with M1 Righty as we follow in the slipstream through this incredibly tricky part and technical part of the circuit, particularly following close behind another driver. You've got the dirty air of the Ferrari in front washing over the Alpine behind, trying to hold the grip through those really tricky corners. We're going to go through Degner 1 here. Big chunk of curve from M1 as they go over Degner 1 and then through 2. Bit of twitch on the way out as we head down to the hairpin at turn 11. Slightly wider line from the Alpine, back on the power. Sticking very, very close with MVR. Really not letting them get away at this point as we head down towards turns 13 and 14. Out over those curbs, holding the car, battling against the desire of the car to get off the track out over the grass. And then we're right up behind MVR. Come out of the slipstream of MVR before 130R as we drip through that incredibly fast left-hander down to the chicane, over those curbs. A good exit from here would help M1. But no, MVR's had slightly better exit here. They'll get DRS once more as we start lap 13. So, apologies, lap 12 of 27 here. So MVR and M1 Righty now pulling out quite a significant gap on SHS behind them. So SHS nearly 5.5 seconds back from M1. And Joe Bean is on the back of SHS. So SHS has found a bit of a match here today in terms of pace from the Mercedes of Joe Bean. SS7 has pitted. They're in now and switched to soft tyres, Rio. So that looks like an interesting strategy from SS7. Do you think it will pay off?
I think it might pay off because SS7 is a quick driver, and he might be doing the old undercut every single driver on this track trick. Because I don't think there's another reason to be going on to softs this late into the race when the medium runners are just about to pit. But yeah, it could be just to see how far up the order he gets and see if he wants to test himself.
Yeah, what they'll be hoping for perhaps is a safety car towards the end of the race, and they can go on to softs one more time, but it's worth a shot and get some tracks position. They're trying to find SS7. This is looking to try, Joe Bean looking to try and find a way past SHS there. There's another Mercedes Aston Martin battle coming up further down the grid between SS7 and Wands, but that's a few seconds off just yet. So this one, third and fourth, still playing out. We've still got M1 following very closely behind MVR. So and the 3-second time penalty there for Ace Pilot. That will be for track limits. We won't see too many of those today round Suzuka. The track being a little bit more forgiving for our drivers than some of the others. But 3 seconds there for Ace Pilot, who's currently in last place on as we circulate here. And Pete is telling me M1A is actually lapping as fast as the leaders right now. So M1A definitely has some pace on those newer mediums. It's really how long does that pace last. But what M1 is finding here is they've certainly got enough pace to stay with MVR, and perhaps with MVR dragging them along here, that will give them a chance towards the end. But I'd be thinking what M1's strategy might be in terms of what tyres they go on to. The sooner they make a decision, I think the better for them and their team. But if they're confident, like we've seen SHS in previous races, they have taken soft tyres well beyond half distance. We saw SHS do that in Canada to some success as they won that race and indeed that battle with SS7 on that day. M1 might be able to do exactly the same thing because MVR is not getting away from them. Joe Bean is right behind SHS as they look to come round the outside of SHS, unless there's been a pass earlier and SHS is getting back. It looks as that maybe what's happened. These two fighting it out all the time, and Emeleki has moved past Mr. Hannes. So I don't know if Mr. Hannes had a moment there, or they've... Oh, Mr. Hannes is in the pits. Sorry, I didn't spot that, and Peter's correcting me straight away. So that's moving Emeleki back up the grid, roughly to where they left us from their connection issues earlier on. Rio, who's impressed you so far in terms of their performance as we're about just over halfway in this race?
Probably M1 Righty, because I think he's the closest driver that's ever come close to MVR in a race, because MVR is just like kind of like Max IRL. Max Verstappen, he would always be like 30 seconds up from the pack, and M1 is matching that pace, which is very, very outstanding to me.
It's very good to see, and it gives us some interesting extra competition for our leaders in the Drivers' Championship and indeed the Constructors' Championship. Alpine ought to already have some points from earlier races, particularly through the performances of Spicy Nuts, who was with us for a number of races but has unfortunately been able to join us on a regular basis since. But Alpine do have some points, so they will not be disappointed to see the performance of M1 Righty. So far, we've got another yellow flag in Sector 1. That has stuck around for a little longer than I would hope. And we've lost N1A. N1A is DNF'd. We have lost N1A. So something has happened, sadly, to N1A. We don't know the reasons for that. We will keep an eye out on the driver's chat for you folks in case anyone gives us a clue. But N1A, having been lightning on those medium tyres for a short while, has now sadly left us. I wonder if that's what caused the yellow flag. We will look out for any information we get on that, folks, but that's our first DNF on lap 15, which is actually probably a first for the GeForce Racing League. We get this long without a DNF, so that's very unfortunate for M1A, who put in a good qualifying and was going quite strongly in this race. What it does mean, though, is that SS7 is now up into 10th on those soft tyres. Mr. Hannes is also on some soft tyres, some brand new soft tyres. They're going to be closing down Hypno in front of them at a rate of knots. We've still got this battle between SHS and Joe Beam for third and fourth. And M1 Righty still there with MVR. And as you were saying, Rio, MVR has had that kind of air of Max Verstappen about him for the earlier races, but now definitely has a challenger alongside them who's going to keep them honest for the remainder of this race. And the longer that this goes, I can see both drivers going on to soft tyres, but I think there is a twist in the tail. I'm just looking at my forecast screen on the extra app that I have, and it's 84% chance of rain, Rio.
It's raining right now. It's actually raining right now.
There you go.
I can see it.
Yeah, good call. And so Well, Rio, we know what's happened to MVR and Rain in 2 previous races. They've got to be dreading this right now.
Yeah, they're not gonna be too happy about it. Yeah, no, MVI is never. I don't think he's ever liked rain, and we could see M1 being passing him very shortly, and because you never know, rain could be M1's special thing. Um, but it will be more likely because MVI. He even said himself he's very slow in the rain. And yeah, and also N1A did crash out early on the very last corner.
I'm just seeing Tim Forever in the chat. Yeah, thanks for being with us again, Tim. It's good to have you here. SS7 down there in 9th at the moment. They've got an interesting call to make as to whether or not they get onto intermediate tyres or whether or not they brave it out on these soft tyres. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time and haven't watched any of our previous streams, please do go back and watch them. There's some cracking racing every week from the G-Force Racing League. But what we have seen in previous races, MVR was leading in Imola. Then the rain came down, MVR span, and sadly did not finish in first. They were ahead by so much they came home in second. In Singapore, just a couple of weeks ago, MVR was leading, had some connection issues, and the rain came down, and MVR finished, I think, 4th in that race. So MVR, so we've seen that was that a Williams? I think it was a Williams going wide there. So these drivers not going in for wet tyres just yet. We do see Hypno and Andrelude have switched to intermediates, but perhaps not wet enough just yet. It does. We see the Alpine of M1 really struggling for grip coming out on those curbs. It's getting close, Rio. When how long could you go on these soft tyres in this kind of level rain? Doesn't look to be throwing it down just yet.
It's not. Yeah, it's not completely pouring down, but I could. Well, I could probably go. Yeah, if I was down there right now, and I was on the softs, I could probably go until it eventually starts pouring with rain.
We've got 10 laps left here, and Pete was rightly calling out that David T has just gone on to brand new soft tyres. So there's enough grip out there at the moment, at least, for these drivers. So David T thinking they'll take a chance on that and get onto some soft tyres. Those soft tyres will still be grippier than most in these slightly damp conditions, but it's certainly not absolutely throwing it down at the moment. It does look from this camera shot to be getting a little bit harder, and we'll start seeing cars drift out slightly offline over track limits. We do see a ghosting Red Bull there, which might be Andre Lude, but difficult for us to tell at this point. But Joe Bean has gone on to Inters, so for one of our front runners, it will be interesting to see what sort of times Joe Bean puts in. So Pete, if I could ask you just to keep an eye on Joe Bean's times compared to those staying out there on softs. We actually do see ones now onto intermediate, so I think some of our drivers deciding enough's enough on these, and they will go on to those intermediate tyres to see them through to the end of the race. So we're at the crossover. David T. Pete's just telling me that David T's last lap on the softs was essentially the same as Hypno. So I think that's telling us that the crossover point is pretty much being reached for these drivers. Indeed, on the camera, Rio, that rain does look to be getting a little bit harder. You've got to be brave to stay out there. There is M1 going very wide on the way out of 130R. Wouldn't be surprised to see M1 coming in right now. We'll stay with them just to see if they do. Yeah, they are in. So, indeed. So SHS coming in as well, and MVR in as well. So all drivers have had enough. Although M1, I don't know if they've pressed the wrong button, Rio, but M1's gone on to softs. Is that just driver error?
I think that might just be a driver error. Yeah. No, that's definitely a driver error. He could be coming in again on the next lap. I can imagine if it was the driver error, I can imagine the frustration on his face right now.
Oh, I could. I would really feel for him if it's just the wrong button pressed. It's promoted Joe Bean up into second. So Joe Bean, taking that lap earlier call to get onto those intermediates, has really won out there. So brilliant driving from Joe Bean. And that's looking good for Mercedes. We definitely do have a wet track now. Even Joe struggling under traction on these intermediate tyres. It's difficult for a driver when you come out on this slightly damper track now on different tyres. There's a danger you try and drive it like a dry track, and that can catch you out. But this rain is getting heavier. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we're going to need full wets very, very soon, Rio. Yeah, you can see it on the track here. It's going to be puddles on here pretty quick.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be every single driver coming in starting from now and next couple of laps, because that's quite a lot of rain. And props to M1 here, as still hasn't spun yet, even with that possible driver error. So yeah.
Shout out for Alex as well. They're out there on hard tyres in this weather, not having had to pit. But they're losing a lot of time now, understandably, to drivers behind them and indeed in front of them. They've just been passed by David T. So I think we'll see Alex in very shortly. There might be another crossover point here, folks, to get on to wets, full wets, particularly if this rain continues to come down so heavily that we start seeing standing water on the track. And we'll know that that's true as we see more drivers going into the pits now. Mr. Hanna's in. Now they are on to intermediates, and indeed Alex going in as well. So they'll be on to intermediates unless they decide to go on wets. Keep it on that screen on the left-hand side to see what Alex decides to go on to. They aren't at their pit crew just yet, intermediates. So they've gone on to the inters. So let's do a recap of where everyone is. We've got MVR out front for Ferrari, 5 seconds clear of Joe Bean in second. SHS now down in third spot. Emilecki, after their connection issues from earlier, has actually moved up to fourth. So some good driving from Emilecki and also some clever strategy has helped them move them up. The DRS disabled, so it is getting wetter and wetter out there, and we can see that from the pictures on our screen here, folks. This is going to be a tough challenge for our drivers to decide if they can see it through to the end on these inters, which they probably can, or if it gets too hard, they'll get onto those wets. But we can see M1 struggling to get out of turn 14 there. Wheels on the curbs, no grip at all. So M1 down here in fifth. And we've got SHS on the back of Joe Bean here. So SHS resuming their battle with Joe that was raging when it was dry. It's reconvened now in these wetter conditions. And SHS, we're going to get back up into second. If you're seeing some jittering on your screen, folks, I'm seeing that here too. So we might have a slight connection issue, but hopefully it stays with us as we are on lap 21 of 27 of the G-Force Racing League from here in Japan. We are following on board with SHS, our current championship leader, hunting down Joe Bean in second to move up the grid here. So we go into the hairpin. It'll be ever so slippery trying to get back on the power as we come out of turn 11, head up towards turns 13 and 14. And Joe Bean settling back now from MVR. I don't know about you, Rio. I've got my fingers crossed for MVR that they see this through to the end, given their issues in Singapore and in Imola.
Same for me as well. MVR is quite known for connection issues, but we're definitely going to be hoping for them to be all good and win.
They've got good pace here, and they are pulling out on Joe Bean ahead. There's no DRS now, so SHS is going to have to do this using traction and ERS. Wow, they got a lot of traction coming out of that chicane, and that has moved SHS up into second spot. Joe has not given this up. They are doing their best to stick with them. as we go around, start going through the S-curves, which get even trickier now with these wetter, slippery conditions. 3-second time penalty for Emeleki. So Emeleki is struggling to keep the car on track at the moment. But they're a good 8 seconds clear of M1. So M1, rain is definitely not their friend. But we will check on penalties and just see what drivers have got. So it's 3 seconds for Emeleki, not a huge amount. 5 seconds for Obo. That one for Obo will be speeding in the pit lane. The same for Andre Lunde, and 9 seconds for Ace Pilot. So I think multiple track limit warnings for Ace Pilot. So we are into lap 22, MVR out front. But Joe Bean is dropping back slightly, it looks like, from SHS. So struggling a little bit more in these wet conditions. We could see that again for Joe Bean as they come out of that corner. So I'm going to go down to Obo and Hypno, and it looks as though there's a three-way battle here. Rio for 6th, 7th and 8th. Obo with those 3 seconds, they will want to get past Hypno as quickly as possible. But Mr. Hannes is finding a way through on Obo, is that? Or is that their teammate? No, they've got Obo and Mr. Hannes. So Mr. Hannes not quite making it past Obo. This is a really close battle, Rio, between the Red Bull, the AlphaTauri and the Haas.
Yeah, good job to them there. This is actually quite entertaining, as we just saw Obo and Mr. Hannes both go off wide. I think they were trying the overtake into 130R hat trick. But yeah, Hypno is under a bit of pressure if Mr. Hannes isn't focused on Obo.
And I wonder if we saw Obo get another 3-second time penalty there for going wide, I think, out of the 130R, and then perhaps getting a bit of a spin on as they come out of the chicane. Very disappointed with this shaking on the feed, folks. So we'll try and sort that out for next week. I think it's just a connection challenge that we have today. But we are moving along quite nicely. We're on with Mr. Hannes as they are trying to track down Hypno. Really struggling for grip here in these super wet conditions. No standing water as we're seeing on the screen, yeah, folks, but it is continuing to rain and rain quite heavily. As we see Hypno come out of turn 14, Hypno back on the power. Mr. Hannes following them on slightly fresher intermediate tyres. I've got my eye further up the grid. Joe Bean is still tracking SHS but not able to get past them just yet. Emeleki back from them though, having made it up to 4th place. So looking like a good recovery from Emeleki. M1 righty. 4 laps back, 4 laps in on their intermediate tyres. Sadly, the rain has not been their friend today. After all, we got the Mr. Hannes and the Haas trying to get down the outside of Hypno, but not making that one stick. As they come out through turn 2, we're going to stick with this battle with Hypno and Mr. Hannes. Could be very close as we reach the closing stages of this race. And if you're watching with us, folks, do let me know who your driver of the day is. You don't have to tell me just yet, but if you've got one, let me know in the chat and also let me know why. Love to hear from you. Rio and I and Pete will give you our drivers of the day when we finish the race today, but I'd love to hear who you would pick from a number of drivers to choose from today. Many good performances out there and some quite excellent ones as well, as Mr. Hannes looking to go down the inside of Hypno, not able to get through on turn 11, the hairpin, as they accelerate back out. So I'm going to go up to Joe Bean, who is right behind SHS once more. So they've dusted off their challenges from earlier and are looking to take back that 2nd place from SHS. SHS are good, nearly not 10 seconds back from MVR. MVR is checked well out of sight as we see Wands, I think it is, coming out the pits. And down the inside goes Joe as SHS tucks in behind them. Good move by Joe. No DRS, so they've had to use their battery power and their driving ability to get past SHS there. Much better straight line speed into that corner, and that moves Joe Bean back up in 2 seconds. So I think Rio, MVR has got this one sewn up. It's now between Joe and SHS for second and third.
Yeah, NVR's definitely got this one in the bag. Even though rain isn't always his friend, but he has done a good job so far. I think he's already got this one stuck. But yeah, and Joe Bean and SHS, I think it's most likely going to be SHS that's going to come out on second, since considering Joe Bean does have a penalty.
And Joe just literally picked that up as we came to Rio there. So that 3 seconds for Joe, unfortunately, is going to push them automatically back into third place. And Joe nearly heads off into the barriers coming out of turn 14 there. So well recovered from Joe. But SHS doesn't have to get past here. They could just sit in the slipstream of Joe. But looking to go down the inside, Joe not fighting that now. And SHS will probably cruise off. They've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. That's Ace Pilot again. So sadly for them, struggling around this track in Japan. This rain not getting any lighter at all. We're on lap 26. Only one more after this to go, folks, and we will reach the end of round 10 of the G-Force Racing League. Our leader at the moment is MVR J Repo, out in front by nearly 12 seconds from SHS. Joe Bean in third, and then a big gap back to Emeleki, making up those challenges from earlier. Really clever strategy to make up for that lost time when they lost connection. Moved up into fourth, but they're now under pressure from M1 right here, a new addition to the G-Force Racing League, joining us for Alpine. They are now closing down Emeleki and looking to take fourth spot away from them. No, Emeleki indeed has a penalty, so even M1 could sit there and just take the points away from Emeleki without having to get past. But as we've seen from M1, I think they will fancy getting past on track. I'm going to drop down to Hypno because Mr. Hannes is right behind them. This battle is not over between the Red Bull and the Haas. Mr. Hannes, and there's no penalties between these two either. So Mr. Hannes looking to win it on track, get past Hypno as quickly as they can. MVR will be coming around, just coming through turn 16 and 17 now to start lap 27, the final lap. We will come to them for the very final corners here, sticking with this battle, which is one of the close remaining battles for position here between Hypno and Mr. Hannes. Mr. Hannes slightly ahead into 130R, but no room round there. Oh, sorry, that was turn 13. So we come out of 14 now, and we head down to 130R. So Mr. Hannes desperately trying to find a way past Hypno on these very last laps. As we come into, we're going to see MVR J Repo get over the line as Mr. Hannes dives down the inside. There does look to be contact, but both drivers come away unscathed as the two of them really battle them out. Mr. Hannes does pick up a penalty, so have gone probably beyond track limits there. So Hypno again can just sit there, don't need to fight it. This track has got so much wetter, Rio. So we're coming around to the final laps of this race. We could stick with those. I'm just going to go up to Joe Bean and SHS. Joe Bean has got past SHS once again. Another 3 seconds for Emeleki. Going to need to be careful about that. Otherwise, they may drop back further positions. But no, they're okay for the moment. Behind Mr. Hannes, there really is a queue of cars building up. I'm just going to drop down to Mr. Hannes here. We've got Hypno has dropped back slightly from Mr. Hannes, but they've now got David T behind them, and then there's Obo with a penalty, and we've got SS7 right back there in 10th. They will not have enjoyed today's race. Domo Pierce doing a sterling effort as always down there in 11th for McLaren. LLX still going for Williams there, and Wands also. Andre Lunde, we haven't seen much of them in the race. They're down there in 14th. And we have seen MVR cross the line for victory in round 10 here of the G-Force Racing League in Suzuka. Congratulations to them. MVR, another victor here. SHS taking second. A regular spot for SHS, more points for Aston Martin will keep them out in front of the others in the championship. Joe Bean in third, great battle with SHS for a long while through that race. M1 righty, a new driver comes through in fourth. I thought we were going to have a cracking battle all the way to the end of the race, but unfortunately the rain took care of that one for us. Emma Leckie, great performance there in fifth. Hypno has come home in sixth for Red Bull in the end. David T up to seventh. Great drive from David T. And not a bad drive from Mr. Hannes, finishing in eighth there, considering they started last on the grid. SS7 in ninth. And Obo is our top 10. So Rio, got to ask you, driver of the day, who's it going to be?
Pretty obvious. Gotta go with the M1, even though the rain sort of hit him hard. He did a really good job overall.
And I'm going to ask Pete just to whisper in my ear who your driver of the day would be. Right, a Joe Bean from Pete, and I think that's not a bad shout either. The game gives it to Mr. Hannes, and I think from a game's perspective, I think that's pretty fair. They made up some really decent positions there. I'm going to give it to J Repo, MVR J Repo, for winning their first race in the rain with the G-Force Racing League. But I think all drivers worthy of the driver of the day vote. If you agree with us, let us know in the chat. If you disagree with us, let us know in the chat. It would be good to hear from you either way. So congratulations to MVR J Repo, another win victory for them and for Ferrari. To Joe Bean and to SHS in second there for Aston Martin, and Joe Bean in third for Mercedes. So the spoils shared between Mercedes, Aston Martin and Ferrari. So another good race from the G-Force Racing League. Always something for us to talk about. There's our final finishing positions, folks. MVR J Repo in first for Ferrari. SHS in second for Aston Martin. Joe Bean in third for Mercedes. M1 righty in fourth for Alpine. And also fastest lap of the race, 129.940. So congratulations to M1. It's very good to have you here. We very much hope you come back next week. Emma Leckie in fifth for McLaren. Great recovery, as I said, from them. Hypno in sixth. No, consistent performance from Hypno and Red Bull. David T, I'm sure they'll be pleased with seventh place for Haas. And also Mr. Hannes in eighth for Haas. SS7 in ninth. Obo in 10th. Tomo Pierce in 11th. L. Alex in 12th. Wands in 13th. Andra Lunde in 14th. And Ace Pilot last to finish in 15th for Williams. So there ends another fantastic, exciting race from the G-Force Racing League. We are going to be back next week for round 11. And next week is particularly exciting, and you must come and join us for it, because we're going to be for round 11 in Brazil, Interlagos, for not just a feature race, we're also going to have a sprint race as well. So please do come and join us next week. We'll be going live around about 7:45 p.m. UK time, where we'll do another review of drivers' standings and constructors' standings, have a quick look back at racing from this week. Bear in mind, we've got essentially 3 races left to go. The smaller, shorter sprint race, less points to be won, but points nonetheless. Then the feature race in Brazil, and then we get the grand finale from Yes Marina in Abu Dhabi the week after that. So an early Christmas present from us to you if you're celebrating from the G-Force Racing League. Come and join us over the next 2 weeks as we look to close out season 1 of a very successful G-Force Racing League. Rio, any particular highlights for you from the race in Japan today?
To be fair, the only highlight that I kept was, apart from all the battles and stuff, probably M1 being on the back of MVR, because we never ever see a driver on the back of MVR because of how quick he is. But it's good to see that someone can challenge him for the future races.
Definitely. I'd love to see M1 hopefully back with us next week for Brazil, and we'll get 2 doses of hopefully a battle with MVR, my moment of the race really from today is just having MVR win the race in the rain. They might not like me going on about the previous ones, but we knew how good they were, and they've proven it today. So that will move MVR further up certainly close the gap on Emeleki, but Emeleki have another strong performance. I think Emeleki will leapfrog SS7 into second spot, but SHS will be extending their lead at the top of the season, but plenty of points still up for grabs for all of our drivers. So we're going to leave it there for today, folks. I want to say thank you to Rio for keeping me company in the commentary box, as always, to Pete for his help in the background, watching that stuff we can't always come and show you on the stream, to our drivers for giving us another exciting race for us all to watch and spend some time on a Wednesday to come and see them, and to all of you for watching us here on M1 Racing and the G-Force Racing League. A reminder, we'll be back live 7:45 p.m. UK time next week on Wednesday for round 11, the penultimate round of the G-Force Racing League from Brazil. So until then, stay safe and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye for now.